Welcome back to our Kelly File special investigation, the baby Lisa mystery. The Kelly File has exclusively obtained never-before-seen interviews of Lisa's parents, conducted in the days immediately after the baby's disappearance. Interviews performed by a former top CIA operative who challenged both parents about exactly what happened here.
Debbie, I think the first question that I need to ask you this morning, okay, is what involvement did you have in the disappearance of Lisa?
None. The only thing I did wrong was drink that night and possibly not be alert, not here. I'm sorry.
Phil Houston worked for the CIA for 25 years. He has conducted thousands of interrogations and grilled double agents and terrorists. And he is credited with developing a deception detection method that is used throughout the U.S. intel and federal law enforcement worlds. He is also CEO of Q Verity and co-author of the book Spy the Lie, Former CIA Officers Teach You How to Detect Deception. Phil, great to see you.
Great to see you as well.
So what most of America did not know was in the days after Lisa Irwin went missing, you and another partner went to interview Deborah and Jeremy about the disappearance. And you went in with an open mind. It's on the tapes. You say, I'm not here to represent you. I'm here to represent the baby.
Correct.
And I may bring this to the police. This is going to be an open interview. Why did you set the stage like that?
She had been through a ton of questioning, as had Jeremy. And one of the things that we were concerned about is that they would be conditioned to answer these kinds of questions. And if we're going to be able to spot a lie, there has to be a fear of detection, a fear of getting caught. Mm-hmm. And we wanted to make sure that that fear was instilled or reinstilled, if you will.
Did you go with any preconceived notions about their guilt?
We did. So when you said we went in with an open mind, that wasn't quite true in the sense that riding out there on the plane, I really believed that based on what I'd heard and based on what I'd heard from the comments by the Kansas City PD and others, that the parents were probably guilty. Mm-hmm. And also just statistically,
that's
right.
It's
heavily slanted toward parental involvement. So I assumed that there was a high probability that they were guilty.
So when you asked that question there and you heard her answer, what was going on?
I was surprised because if you notice, what I didn't ask her was, did you do it? Because if I say, did you do it, every criminal in the world expects to be asked that question.
What involvement did you have?
What involvement? It's presumptive. The psychological difference is the truthful person doesn't have to process that question. They're hearing, did you do it? The deceptive person, the criminal, what involvement did you have? What do they know? What is it that they've spotted? What is it that they've uncovered? And all that processing will manifest itself as deceptive indicators.
And in that answer, what did you hear?
We didn't see those deceptive indicators. She answered the question directly. We're not giving her credit for answering it directly. What we're giving her credit for is not exhibiting the deceptive indicators. You didn't see any significant nonverbals. What we also saw that got our attention immediately is in the question, she immediately went to the fact that she had been drunk that night. So she was actually accepting some culpability for perhaps what had happened.
Which is the behavior of a truth teller?
Well, you certainly don't see criminals taking culpability for, for the event, and that was a bit odd.
Let me play the second question of the interview. Let's go.
Is there any reason that anyone will provide information or evidence that indicates that you were or are involved in her disappearance?
No.
What's happening there?
The same thing. What's really interesting is, and it's perhaps not obvious on camera, is that between the first question and her answer, and then that answer and that question, was about 8 or 9 seconds. That's a long time for someone who has done something as horrible and despicable as either, cover up the death of a child, or were responsible for the death of the child and aren't disclosing it. And so you saw immediately she answered that question without hesitation, without any of that processing that I referred to a moment ago. Again, I confess I was a bit surprised when I saw that.
A guilty person would be looking to get out of bounds somehow on the answer.
Exactly. In other words, again, what do I know? It plants what we call a mind virus. Is there any reason that evidence? Well, what evidence have they uncovered? What do they know? Where did I not cover my tracks, so to speak? And there was none of that processing. It was an immediate no. And so, but again, we're not ready to walk away and say, okay, she didn't do it.
Right. There's much more to the interview, including your interview of Jeremy, which they were to perform separately, and we're going to get to much more right after this break. Phil, stand by. Up next, what Jeremy Irwin has to say about the moment he realized his daughter was missing and why Phil and his partner found this so important.
Jeremy, if the police were to walk in here right now and say to you, Jeremy, we have come across some evidence which clearly indicates that you're involved in Lisa's disappearance, what would you say?
It's not possible. It's not possible because I wasn't. So it'd just be another one of their lies.
Joining me again, Phil Houston. What did we see there?
Again, a very tough question, especially for someone who is lying, okay? And in this particular case, we didn't see deceptive behavior. We didn't see what sounded like a lie. It was a question that's designed to provoke deceptive behavior from a deceptive person.
Like the police have got something. Exactly,
and we didn't see that.
What about the body language? He looks like he's kind of looking down. His manner in general is pretty sort of quiet and laconic.
Exactly. That's Jeremy's personality and manner. And one of the things that we know is there were some people, I recall, when we were watching on TV before we ever went out and interviewed Lisa and Jeremy, that said Jeremy looked guilty, or Deborah, excuse me, Deborah and Jeremy, that Jeremy looked guilty. And you can't make those kinds of assessments based on someone's appearance because you're only guessing at why they're behaving that way at that moment. What you have to look for with deception is understand what the stimulus is for potential deceptive behavior and then see if it provokes deceptive behavior.
But could they have been coached? Could a lawyer have said, when you get asked these questions, be definitive, don't hedge. Just deny it outright. Don't elaborate, period. Can't they be coached into deceiving you?
People could be coached, but the likelihood of that masking deceptive behavior is highly unlikely.
You don't think they could fool you?
I don't think so, but one never knows. There's no such thing as a human lie detector. There really isn't. People call us, that, and so forth. But at the end of the day, we're human. And
what would the body language have been if they were being deceptive?
One of the things that we would have seen would have been some physical activity, a spike in anxiety. For example, if you're worried that I know something that the police have that you don't know, it's likely to spike your anxiety. Without even thinking about it, the autonomic nervous system kicks in, starts to dissipate that anxiety. Wow. We'll see movement, we'll see grooming gestures, shifts, and things of that nature.
Wow, so you're not just listening for the words, you're watching their...
Every second, we're trying to be laser focused on both.
Here's another moment where Jeremy describes the first moment he got back home and he went back to Deborah and they realized that Lisa is missing. Watch.
So I said, she's not in the crib, she's not in the crib. And that's when all hell broke loose and we realized she wasn't where she was supposed to be. Started running all over the house screaming and looking for.
When you say swimming, what were you saying?
We were just, we were just running all over, and I said, we gotta find her, we gotta find her. At this point in time, both of the boys are in the hallway. Deborah's yelling at them, you know, look for your sister. We're running all over the house, looking on closets and under beds. And
So what do we see there?
What we saw there, what I saw in particular, was a lack of choreography, if you will, a lack of a prepared statement. He was struggling for the words as to what they said that night. Now, some could argue that, you know, maybe he's lying and he can't, you know, he didn't say those things.
He's not going off of memory.
Exactly. But in reality, in a moment of high emotion, high tension, you put some time between that, even a few days. It's hard to remember. If somebody said, what exactly did you say when this happened? People don't typically remember, you know, word for word what they said. And he wasn't afraid to reflect that I'm not remembering that, you know, as opposed to something that sounded like a pat answer.
Quick logistical question. You did the interview along with a colleague, but you interviewed them separately. Do you and your colleague discuss it? I mean, do you wait until the end and then share your independent conclusions? How does it go?
We have a set of questions when we go in, and we have a methodology or an approach by which we'll sort of pass the baton between the two of us. But we took about an hour at a time. We spent, I think, about 5 hours with Deborah and approximately 3 hours with Jeremy.
Wow.
And during the period when we're interviewing them, we're taking no breaks, we're not comparing. And at the end, we were kind of looking at each other, scratching our heads because...
Well, hold that thought, because up next, we're going to ask Phil what the conclusion was.